want to thank everybody for joining us for our National Service panel, both to our participants and to our panelists today. Really glad that everybody could be here today. So on behalf of the Office of Professional and Career Development Services and the Office of Community Engaged Learning, we welcome you. I'm Amanda Martin. I'm the Assistant Director, and I'll be the Assistant Director of Community Engaged Learning, and I will be moderating our panel tonight. And then my colleagues, Crystal and Renee, will be helping to monitor the chat box and just make sure that people can ask their questions. So please do be thinking of questions for our panelists today. Just a couple housekeeping tips. So if participants don't mind just keeping yourselves on mute and maybe keeping your cameras off just for our bandwidth here. But if you want to unmute yourself and put your camera on when you ask questions, that's totally fine. And we are recording the panel, so you can watch it again, share it with friends. I know there were several people today who couldn't make it specifically at this time, but they are interested in this and want to watch it later. So we'll have that available for people. And all right, well, I'm going to kick us off. And next week is National AmeriCorps Week, and we do have an AmeriCorps Vista with us today, an AmeriCorps alum, and we also want to be sure to talk about opportunities with the Peace Corps as well. I myself am an AmeriCorps Vista alum. I served 2 years of AmeriCorps in Ames, Iowa at the Volunteer Center of Story County, and have worked with AmeriCorps NCCC. I've helped run AmeriCorps state programs, so pretty knowledgeable about AmeriCorps. And our Director of Community Engaged Learning, Renee, is also an AmeriCorps alum. So we have a lot of great resources here on the call today, and really excited to hear from our 3 panelists. We have 3 Drake alums with us today. Katie Carlton, who is an AmeriCorps alum, did a couple different AmeriCorps programs, I believe, and currently is a program coordinator at Balance Autism. Laura Harris, current AmeriCorps Vista with Grand County Planning and Zoning and Trails Departments. And both Katie and Laura worked in the Office of Community Engaged Learning when they were students here. So we're really happy to see you again. And then we have Mallory Karr, a returned Peace Corps volunteer and currently a research assistant with the Department of Medicine at CU Anschutz. So I'm gonna just in a minute here ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves. If you would tell us a little bit about your role and what drew you to national service, and then we'll get to some of our other questions. So let's start with Katie, and then Laura, and then Mallory. Katie, go ahead.
Hi, so I'm Katie, and I currently work in the nonprofit field. I'm a program coordinator at Balance Autism in Altoona, and I served in AmeriCorps 3 times. I served at Easter Seals, Wisconsin twice, and then I served at an organization called IRIS here in Des Moines while I was at Drake through the Community Engaged Learning Office. And what really drew me to AmeriCorps was I wanted to get more involved with my community, wanted to get off campus and learn a little bit more about Des Moines. So that's really what got me started.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. Right now, like Amanda said, I am serving as an AmeriCorps Vista in Moab, Utah with Grand County Planning and Zoning Department and the Trails Department. I started last April of 2021, so I'm actually just about wrapping up. I'm done in about 4 weeks, which is exciting. But what drew me to AmeriCorps is I think doing just like such hands-on service work in college really led me to want to be really intentional with making sure that my professional goals aligned with community development. And I also graduated in May of 2020, and quite frankly, jobs in my field were a little bit hard to find, and I saw the need in communities, and so AmeriCorps was a really good decision for me at the time. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm Mallory, not AmeriCorps and not national, but international, but also very cool, I think. I was in Paraguay with the Peace Corps for just under 2 years because of COVID. It got cut short, but similar to what the other panelists were saying is a lot of it goes back to wanting to be engaged in a community, not just the community at home, but also some of our other neighbors. And trying to expand that to other aspects of my current work where I work in research with health and health outcomes and HIV research. So.
That's great. So we have a wide variety of experiences here. I just want to give a little caveat. I appear to be having some technical issues, so I can't really see our panelists' faces. So if I miss any social cues or anything, please feel free to let me know. I apologize about that. But so participants who are here, feel free to start thinking about your questions. You can either put them in the chat box or raise your hand or hop in with your question. But just to start, I was wondering, how did your college experience help, either motivate or inspire you to join AmeriCorps, or help prepare you for an experience like that? And anybody can start.
I can start. So in high school, I had a lot of volunteer experience in my specific community. Unfortunately, the opposite was kind of true when I came to Drake. I became so overwhelmed with schoolwork. I was involved in a lot of organizations on campus and within the Des Moines area. But I really felt like that those 4 years kind of became a lot about my academic experience. And so I did want to just take time. I think this is where things like AmeriCorps and Peace Corps, they carve out a year or two of your life, and that's just your focus. And that's really what I wanted, is I wanted to just have no other distractions, where I could focus on something that was service oriented and let that be my priority, instead of worrying about, oh my gosh, I have this final, or I have to study for this. And that's really what ended up happening to me in university. And that's something now, post Peace Corps and post university, trying to find that balance in my work life aspect of, okay, how can I balance my job and also these other aspects of who I want to be and the things that are important to me, such as service.
Awesome. Well, I can go next. Kind of like what Mallory said, I just feel like I've always been kind of drawn to volunteer opportunities. And while I was also in a lot of organizations on campus, I almost feel like not unintentionally, but I just always kind of found myself wanting to serve the community, or just kind of falling into different volunteering, or I had positions in organizations where I was creating volunteer opportunities. And I guess I just have always kind of felt this pull to contribute to whatever community I'm involved in, and just being a bigger part, contributing to something bigger than myself. So that's really what motivated me. And I also, my coursework was in sustainability, and the AmeriCorps position that I'm in currently, specifically in the trails department, was a big portion of my service description, was to provide increase open space opportunities for folks in the community. And so that kind of really tied in my interest between community participation and public health and sustainability. So that was really exciting to me when I originally took my position in Moab.
So I would say initially for me, when I came to Drake, I was a politics major. I ended up changing my major, but I wanted to learn a little bit more about Des Moines, make some connections. So for me, AmeriCorps was a really great way to get to know Des Moines a little bit more off campus. And I actually started in AmeriCorps in my first semester at Drake, so that kind of shaped my college experience, changed what I wanted to do. I wanted to focus a little bit more on nonprofit communications. And my experience was actually, I had a really great experience. So that encouraged me to continue applying for AmeriCorps. So I did 2 other AmeriCorps terms while I was still in college, because I had such a great time in my first term.
Okay, awesome. So do we have any questions yet from the audience? I'll just give a second here if anybody wants to ask something on their mind.
I'm not seeing any in the chat quite yet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my next question then is, what skills did you gain through AmeriCorps, or are you gaining through AmeriCorps that are helping you in your next position? You know, if you've moved on from or Peace Corps, from your service experience, what skills did you gain that are helping you in your next career path?
Well, I guess I can start as I'm kind of currently in that role. So, you know, gaining the hands-on experience right now. And I'm kind of right now in the position where I'm about a month left. I've been, you know, updating my resume and kind of just reflecting on the skills and things that I have been working on in the last year. And I would say one really exciting aspect that's been driving me and that what I've learned is a lot of like long-term project management. A lot of times, you know, I'll have this one project and then, you know, something more urgent pops up and then you have to go back to a bigger long-term project. And sometimes it can be hard to kind of self-regulate that, especially if there's not necessarily a deadline, which I feel like in college, that's very laid out. You know, you have this assignment that's due on Thursday or whatever. So that's definitely been something that I've been working on. And I also think I split my time in between the planning and zoning department at the county and the trails department. And so I really like that because I get a diverse mix of projects and working with different people. But I think it's also just led me to be very adaptable and like learning how to, you know, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, really prioritize and focus my time in that entity, and then the other 3 days working in planning and zoning. So I'd say that's a big skill that I've been learning.
I would definitely agree. This idea of also like being flexible and being able to change, thinking, okay, I need to prioritize this. And then maybe even an hour later, realizing, okay, wow, everything's going completely different, or what I thought is happening is actually not really what I thought. And to expand on that, for me specifically, it really shaped the way that I listen and communicate now and the way that I collaborate with other people. I think sometimes there's a way in university where we still had to collaborate in classes, but it's a smaller group, especially at Drake. And you can almost kind of handpick who you collaborate with in some ways if you're tricky about it or sneaky. But when it comes to things that are service oriented, you can't do anything well unless you listen to the people that you're working with. There's probably like 99.9% of the time, there's other people in the room that know way, way more than I do, have way better insights, have way better takes, have a lot of contextual information and knowledge that I just don't have. And so I can't help or be a part of the helping or planning process if I'm not listening and trying to kind of help my communication and understanding what they're talking about or what issues are happening or what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and then figuring out how we can collaborate and really improve the things that we need to improve, or tweak the things that we need to tweak, or tweak what I need to tweak and change how I need to change in order to be more supportive in my role.
Yeah, I would say I definitely agree with all of those. At least for me in specific, all of the AmeriCorps terms that I did were jobs related to advocating for people with disabilities. So I'd say that was a big skill that I learned was advocacy. I learned a lot about disability awareness, disability rights, in all three of my positions. And a lot of that has carried on to what I do currently. I still work in a field where I advocate for people with disabilities on a daily basis. So that was a lot of new knowledge that I learned over the course of college that, at least for me, I wasn't learning too much about in my classes. So it really added on having that real world experience when I graduated and joined the professional environment.
We have a question that came in via email. And that is, what is the biggest misconception people have about the AmeriCorps or the Peace Corps that you would like to correct? And then we have another question in the chat as well.
Okay.
I'd say a lot of people think AmeriCorps is like the full year program where you work essentially like full time. At least for me, like all my experiences were more part-time while I was in college. So you don't have to wait to do AmeriCorps until after you leave school. It's definitely very flexible, and you can find a lot of AmeriCorps positions while you're still a student.
I guess I would say me coming into, I guess my own misconception since I've started was I was definitely a little bit nervous that it was maybe just going to be busy work, not busy work, but you know, you have a boss and you're like working for the boss. But it's been really exciting because I've been given these like pretty important projects, especially working for the county, you know, specifically things focused on like affordable housing, or I'm helping right now with like long-term planning updates, like our general plan in the planning and zoning department. And these are just things I had no idea that I was actually going to be helping with. And I guess I feel very valued in my departments, and have been given a lot of responsibilities that I guess I didn't necessarily see that would be happening just based on the job description that I signed on with. So it's been a positive misconception, I guess, or debunked, I should say.
For the Peace Corps, I think it might be a little bit different. There's two big ones that kind of come to mind, and as kind of like like a little star. I don't mean to sound jaded or anything like that, but I think there's a lot of notions that Peace Corps, especially because it's a big government agency, is perfect, or they do a lot of things really well, or they're infallible. But it, like any organization, especially one that's wrapped in government bureaucracy, it has its own flaws and faults. And as a volunteer with no power, you're right in the middle of it with your community. And so I think that's something that can be really challenging, and something to be aware of in terms of any organization that you're a part of. There's always an organization aspect to things. There's always like a business and government side to things, and learning how to navigate those things and navigate them well, I think is really important. And then the second one, I think, is a lot of people go into, I think, Peace Corps thinking that as the volunteer, they're kind of the star of the show, but really you're like a supporting, not even a supporting actor. You're like someone who brought the wood to build the stage. The people who live there have lived there for hundreds of thousands of years. People understand their own communities. They have huge knowledge bases. You're there to help people do what they want to do and what they need to do, not to come in with some idealized version of, oh yeah, I'm gonna save the day. And it sounds maybe a little bad putting it that way. And there are plenty of people who don't view international development this way, but it's one of those misconceptions that's really, really dangerous. And I think it's important to have open conversations about.
Thank you all. That's really helpful. Maddie is asking in the chat, what do you like most about your job? Or did you like most about your work in AmeriCorps or the Peace Corps?
I can start. I loved my community. To give a little background, if you don't know how the Peace Corps is set up, you end up in a community typically on your own, no other volunteers for 2 years. And so you really get to know a lot of the people there. There's no one else to speak English with you usually. So you create a bond with a lot of people that I still talk to them daily, sending voice messages on WhatsApp. So I love the people that I met there. I love the things that they taught me. I'm gonna cry. Just people. Oh my gosh, the people. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, I would second that. I would also say that I made some really good connections. Like my supervisor, when I did AmeriCorps in college. I'm still in touch with her to this day. And then when I worked at Easter Seals, Wisconsin in a camp setting, sorry, my cat is right here. I made some really good friends with the other camp counselors that I was working with, and a lot of the campers too. I'm still in touch with them over Facebook. So even though we're in different states, I've still got some really good friendships there.
Yeah, I love that in my position, it's very much the hub of the community. Moab is a really small town, and I moved here like not knowing anybody. And right off the bat, I just feel so active in the community. I'm like helping solve these really complex problems. Like we're in an affordable housing crisis here. We are living in a tourist town, and we're trying to figure out how do we navigate development while we also keep like the community's character. And by no means do I call myself a local, because the real locals get a little upset about that. But I just feel like I've been able to dive in so much, and by working in the county, like I'm actively solving these problems every single day, and I get to work with such a diverse mix of people. And another just really fun thing is the AmeriCorps Vista, specifically in Moab. It's kind of like a whole community. So truly, like my best friends that I've met here are also other Vistas. So kind of in a different boat than Mallory. I've been able to have that support of other folks who like know exactly what I'm going through as well. We're all kind of in the same boat. And so that's been super great and supporting, and has really helped like my experience as well.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about benefits of AmeriCorps and Peace Corps. Certainly people don't do it to get rich, but I'm curious, what are the both tangible and non-tangible benefits of these programs? And also just how do you make ends meet?
Sure, I can start with that. I was definitely hesitant, a little bit hesitant, of course, to take on a year-long position as an AmeriCorps. So for a little background, if folks don't know, you get twice every 2 weeks, you get just like a living stipend. And it's supposed to, keep you, I guess, not humbled, but to provide you in the space where you feel like you can maybe relate to the folks around you in your community that might be struggling. But that can be a little bit tough sometimes, but you know what? It's been enough for me to live, and still fairly comfortably. And a nice perk for me, at least, because I'm almost at the end of the tunnel, I actually forgot, but as a Vista, you receive an educational award at the end. And that could be used towards like your continuing education, or it can go towards student loans. And I'm very excited to just dump all of that into my student loans because those are coming up, and it's a little bit stressful. And so that'll be nice to kind of alleviate a little bit of the stress of student loans. So looking forward to that. But overall, I mean, I definitely feel like I'm in a privileged position where I had like a little bit of savings and stuff to make me feel comfortable to kind of jump into receiving the living stipend that AmeriCorps gives. But overall, it hasn't been too much of a problem.
Yeah, I enjoyed getting the living stipend. I was in college, so I believe it was around $200 a month, roughly, in my terms. So it wasn't too much, but it was also good to have that money, like in addition to my on-campus job and some jobs I had off campus. So I just kind of saw it as like an added benefit to basically volunteering. And also when I was all done with college, having the educational award to start going towards my loans was really good. And I saw the benefits definitely with like the connections that I made and the experience I had on my resume when I graduated. I think it really helped me to get my first job out of college. So I was really thankful for everything that AmeriCorps gave me. And then it also just kind of factored in well with I guess kind of how things are already going for me as a student.
For Peace Corps, it's pretty similar. There's also a stipend while you're serving that's similar to the livable wage in the country that you receive monthly. And then they also give you a readjustment allowance that you accrue for the amount of months that you serve. You're supposed to serve 27, but there are people who finish their service early for a number of reasons, COVID. And so they multiply your number of months to get that, but you would make more at McDonald's. So people obviously don't go to the Peace Corps to get that readjustment allowance. So a lot of the benefits are more non-tangible ones. And it really kind of depends on who you are. For some people, they feel like they got a lot of experience in growing their language skills because they went to a country where the target language that they were working in was one that they wanted to do further development in, or they wanted to work in other contexts. Like I mentioned earlier, the soft skills that I developed with listening and communication and team building and collaboration, I think are all ones that are crucial for science, not just for scientific research, but also for scientific communication. So it's really about the non-tangible things that you kind of look back on retrospectively.
Thank you. Okay, other questions from our participants here?
The chat is pretty quiet.
Okay, I still have more questions, so no worries. Can you share a little bit about the application process? How do you find these opportunities and how do you apply?
Sure. Yeah, I can go first. So I was job searching for a while after I graduated and kind of landed on the idea to pursue AmeriCorps. And so for the most part, I actually just applied directly on the AmeriCorps portal website, which frankly, it's a little bit outdated and a little bit hard to navigate, but it does the job. And so essentially what it is you just create a generic application with, a cover letter, resume, put in references, your educational experience, that sort of thing. And then once that is all created, then it's pretty easy to just apply to all of the jobs that you might be interested in. So for my application process, I knew that I didn't want to stay in the Midwest. I knew I wanted to move out West. So I was kind of targeting my searches in the West area. And so then once I had my application created, it was really easy to just apply. And then I had my boss directly reach out to me once they received my application. But I do know it can even be as easy as seeing the posting on LinkedIn or another, Indeed, like another job site like that. So yeah, that was my personal experience, but I know there's multiple ways to go about it.
Yeah, I'd second going through the portal because I did AmeriCorps several times. It was really nice just to already have the portal set up. So when I decided to apply for another AmeriCorps position, my information was already loaded in there and I could very easily search and apply. There's also a process, I believe, where it typically requests some letters of reference. So getting those ahead of time, thinking about who you could use as a professional reference is a really nice way to get kind of a step ahead of the process if you're thinking about applying.
For Peace Corps, it's a little similar, a little different. Surprise. Obviously, you could just go to the Peace Corps website. There's plenty of RPCVs in every state, so you could go on Facebook and talk to the return volunteers if you also wanted a more kind of personal, more intimate conversation about their experience and what it was like in their application process too. And there's also usually at a lot of major universities recruiters. I never saw a recruiter. I don't know if Drake has one. If we do, I'm really sorry that I don't know about them. But it was a resume, a kind of statement of purpose, And then I had to do medical clearance, legal clearance, dental clearance. After they had already accepted my initial application and taken me through interviews, then it was a bunch of other things because they want to make sure that they can give you the right kind of health care when you're in country. And similar to AmeriCorps, you can also filter by different interests. So I only want to work in South Central America, or I only want to work in agriculture, or I only want to work in youth and development, or you can say, I want to work anywhere in any sector. There's a bunch of different sectors.
Crystal, does Drake have a Peace Corps recruiter and any opportunities for them to meet with them coming up?
We do have a Peace Corps recruiter, but they're not going to be on campus in the near future. So I can reach out and see.
You
And
can
of
also
course,
send me any questions too.
Great.
there you go. Mallory's offering.
Mallory, would you put your email in the chat box?
Yeah.
If anybody else
Absolutely.
is willing to do that too. It is nice to be able to just ask some of those questions that you can't always find on a website or somebody who's been through it before. So yeah, definitely reach out to people who have been through it before.
And I'll also put the Peace Corps recruiters information in there too.
All right, what other questions do you all have? I think if I'm quiet long enough, somebody will say something. Okay, I'll ask another one. Okay, what do you all think that college students, Drake students could be doing now to get engaged? And do you have any advice for them?
So I worked at the Community Engaged Learning Office where Amanda and Renee also work, and I also worked with Laura. So I would really recommend checking out the Community Engaged Learning Office, especially as a first-year student, and just learning about some of the different opportunities that the office offers. There's a lot of opportunities to volunteer in the community and also volunteer on campus. So I think if you want to learn a little bit more about national service, it's a really good first step. And also Amanda and Renee have a lot of resources as well that they can share about national service with you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think just setting yourself up with similar groups of like-minded people is really helpful as well. Because I think kind of like what Katie said, just being in that office, and I was really excited. So I was the Sprout Garden coordinator, and it was really exciting to be able to share what I was really passionate about with other folks who were also striving towards those goals. I would say professionally, one thing that I have at least witnessed, like since I've been a Vista, is the planning and zoning department that I'm in right now is actually hiring another Vista for when I'm done. And there's a girl who we've hired now, but she's actually still in college, which is really exciting for her. So like she has her job all lined up to start in the summer after she graduates. And so I kind of just witnessed her reaching out to our office just as like just wanting information. And my boss was super excited to, set up a call with her and the other members of our team. So I guess something that I feel like I didn't really utilize my resources as well as I could have is just reaching out to people in a field that you might be interested in. I personally had no idea that I was going to end up in like the world of community development or planning and zoning. But I would say if you're interested in something, it really doesn't hurt to just reach out to gain more information. And I think this girl who we ended up hiring didn't necessarily even know if she was like serious about pursuing a job in this profession, but she got great information and insight, and it kind of led her to actually apply and set up her job. So that's just something that I've noticed. And I honestly wish that I would have maybe taken more opportunities like that to get connected within a network in a job in a realm that I was interested in.
That's a really good point. I think networking can also be like really intimidating and
Yeah.
scary too, but for no good reason. I think also very broadly, thinking about kind of what your passions are. What are the things that you like? It can be simple things like I really like reading, or I really like this sport. And then thinking about how you can translate them to skills. Obviously, I'm thinking more of in the context of like Peace Corps, whereas they have more specific kind of projects than I had. I had a specific project in sight, but then I had other like 10 other broader ones. And so thinking about what you're good at and kind of what your skills are and what you can bring to the table. Are you bilingual? Are you really good at math? Are you really good at this thing? How can you help people or support teams with the things that you're good at? And even outside of the world of volunteering, when it comes to jobs, knowing your strong suits and what you can do well and how you can do them well and in what circumstances is also really helpful. And then in addition to that, getting experience in it. It's sometimes not enough just to be good at something through university. Having the experience outside of university in a more tangible, hands-on setting, the real world, however you want to phrase it, is also essential because things change. Things are slightly different. Personalities are different. Contexts are different. So
There is another question in the chat from Alex, and that is, what's one thing you will look forward to in your career in the near future?
I can start with that. Actually, as of today, I recently just accepted a job to stay in Moab. And yeah, so I'm very excited. I'll be starting that in May once I'm done. And I'm going to be working for the Housing Authority of Southeastern Utah. And I'll be doing a lot of work to help the affordable housing initiatives here in Moab. So I truly would not have been able to get this job without getting my foot in the door as a Vista and, just getting random experiences and meeting the right people in this world. So I'm really excited to start that.
I'd say for me, I just really want the opportunity to grow more and learn more about disability awareness and advocacy. It's something that I've been working on kind of my whole AmeriCorps experience. And then once I graduated and got my first job out of college, it was something I continued to work on. So I really just want to grow and learn more about the field. At least in my job now, I am specifically working with individuals with autism. So I feel like every day I'm learning more and more about autism, especially with so much new research coming out on it.
my career is a little bit shifted a little bit different from the things that I was doing in Peace Corps. I was working a lot in agriculture and nutrition and youth and development. And I work in microbiome and HIV research now. I'm sure there's a relation there that we could draw if I thought about it hard enough, but I'm really looking forward to a lot of kind of getting back into science. COVID has kind of taken me out of it, and I'm excited to get back into it more and more and learn a lot of the things that I haven't had the chance to develop, whether it's working with new collaborators on new projects or hopefully getting some papers published in the next couple months, or just learning some new skills and working with different teams from different universities across the world.
Very exciting stuff. Okay, we have time for a few more questions. If anybody has a question. Can you guys talk a little bit about like the training and orientation you received for your service?
So with Peace Corps, I'm sure it's vastly different from AmeriCorps. You have, and it depends actually, it changes a little bit depending on each country. But in general, you have 3 months of in-country training. So usually it's at a training center that's near the capital, and you live in training communities. So I lived with a host family for 3 months. All of the other trainees in my cohort lived with other host families, and we went to technical trainings where we worked in agriculture. We went to linguistic trainings where we practiced Guarani and Spanish, which were the local languages. We also had health and nutrition classes, not just for ourselves, but also for our communities, but mainly for ourselves. Then we had like cross-cultural training as well, because there's a lot of things that are very different, and you don't want to be rude or make some mistakes just because you don't know the basics. And then after 3 months, we had through those 3 months, we had a bunch of interviews to place us within our country and with our counterparts. So 3 months of a lot of stuff happening. Very, very long days, very long weeks. Exhausting, but fun.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's a lot of information all at once. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's all in Spanish or all in Guarani, and you're like, I still don't know how to say hello.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Oh my gosh. In terms of Vista training, there really is not much. I don't know if that is maybe just because of I started it during COVID or if not. I'm not really sure, but in order to start, we did have to do like an orientation online, and that was actually, I think, with all of the Vistas who were starting at the same date as I was. And I believe every couple months there's like a specific start date that they have Vistas do. So this first day was just like our virtual orientation. So I don't know, there were maybe 100 or 200 folks from all over the country on this orientation. And it was more just about the background of the Vista program, and it can't really be site specific because it was so general. But yeah, so in terms of like AmeriCorps training, I didn't have very much, but then once I got into Moab, of course, the first couple of weeks are always just, orientation and meeting the people that you're going to be working with and going over the duties of the departments and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. You guys had very cool training processes. At least in my initial AmeriCorps experience, I was here in Des Moines, so I was local, and I was also doing an AmeriCorps program through Drake. So a lot of the training and orientation that I did was on campus, actually with Amanda and Renee. A lot of it was just like learning what AmeriCorps was. I was very new to it. I didn't know too much, honestly, about what AmeriCorps even was. Learning a lot about service. And we also took some classes specific to service as well for the specific program that I was in. And then at least at my site where I was serving at Iris, I did a lot of like one-on-one meetings with my supervisor to learn more about the organization. And then when I went to Easter Seals, Wisconsin, it was kind of like we were all very new to it, and we were all working there over the summer, basically 40 hours a week. So really just kind of getting thrown into it and learning a lot about the organization itself, and then learning a lot about the policies and procedures. Although we were AmeriCorps members, we were essentially treated as staff as well. So learning basically how to be a staff member in my AmeriCorps position there.
Well, I will share too, I just received an email from Lutheran Services of Iowa, just down the street from Drake, and they are looking for 2 summer AmeriCorps members. So as Katie mentioned earlier, there are different lengths and types of AmeriCorps positions available. So they're looking for 2 summer positions to help with their Global Greens farm and farmers market. So if anybody does like agriculture, and it's also working with refugees. That's an opportunity available. I am happy to get you more information about that. So feel free to reach out. But you can also just, like Laura said, go to the website and you can put in filters, and you can do these types of services all over the US, all over the world for Peace Corps. It's kind of a fun opportunity to maybe travel, but definitely check out those websites if you are interested to see what sorts of opportunities are available now. Or I did my AmeriCorps term about 2 years after I graduated from college, decided I wanted to try something a little bit different, and was able to get into the nonprofit world. And every job I've had since then, I can directly tie back to my AmeriCorps experience. So it's great for building skills, for making connections, for finding what you're interested in, or maybe what you're not interested in, which is also very important. So yeah, I think definitely feel free to reach out to any of the people on the call here if you want to find out a little bit more, but I will just open it up for questions one more time before we kind of wrap things up here. Any final questions? And then I'll let the panelists say some final words too. Okay, well, panelists, any final things you want to share with the group today? Things that we didn't cover that you wanted to be sure to share, or anything else?
I would say if you're interested in national service, really just to try it. I feel like there's so many benefits, and it's a really great experience that I don't think that anyone would regret. So find something that you're interested in and start looking for opportunities would be my best advice.
Yeah, I guess it really does put your foot in the door, like after your service. I'm really excited to be wrapping up in the next month. It's been a great experience, but I also knew kind of like right away, because I was able to get so involved in my community, that I realized I love Moab and I do want to stay here. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out, and it, I don't know, like not necessarily even just it's a good thing for your resume, but people really value that you value just the direct contributions that you're making, and not that it's necessarily a sacrifice, but obviously it could be a lot easier to find a normal 9-to-5 job that might give you great benefits, or provide you with like a lot more stability, but in the moments of like a little bit of discomfort or that sort of thing, I feel like the benefits have definitely outweighed maybe some of the challenges in terms of the experience.
I think sometimes those challenges too are really great moments for growth, even though sometimes in the moment they really, really, really suck. It depends on the challenge though. And in addition to that, I think some of the things that for AmeriCorps and for Peace Corps, the things that might be enticing for one person can be really terrifying for another person, but don't be afraid. I mean, that's a very easy thing to say, don't be afraid. But you're capable of hard things, of scary things, of big or different things. And you really don't know what you're fully capable of until you go and try and do it. And if you go and you do it and you mess up and you fail, it's going to be okay. And it's okay to fail. You should fail. I don't think you grow enough if you don't fail. If everything's too easy, life gets a little boring and you don't kind of reach your fullest potential. So try things that seem a little scary or daunting, and any worries that you have about them, talk to the people that you trust, talk to people who have gone through something similar or who have actually gone through it, and hear what they have to say, and obviously talk about it. Don't jump into something without any knowledge or information. Knowledge is power, but you're capable of more than you think you are.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I got goosebumps just listening to all of your advice, and just the potential here in this Zoom room is really exciting. Thank you so much to our 3 panelists. I just want to share quickly that this is a part of our Careers in Social Change panel series that we've been doing now for 2 years. And we have one more panel coming up in April, Tuesday, April 5th, in careers in direct service. So this could be helping with volunteer coordination or working directly with people. If you are interested in a career such as that, please join us for that. Same sort of format, 4 to 5 p.m. on Zoom, and you can register for that on Handshake. That will be during our annual Civic Action Week. So that whole week, April 4th through 9th, we'll be doing service projects and panels and movie showings and different things just to engage campus and community around topics of social issues and community engagement. So we hope that you'll be able to join for some of those events. I will, hopefully Crystal maybe can share the list with me of people who signed up for this, and I'll send some follow-up information with the recording and with some of those other opportunities coming up. So Crystal, anything you want to add?
Sorry, I had a hard time finding my unmute button for some reason. I also threw up the information for the Pathways to Social Change and your contact information in case people are interested in that assessment. And I know you just see a blank screen, but that's up there right now for everyone to see.
Thank you, Crystal. Yes, we do also offer one-on-one appointments if you are not quite sure where you want to start, but you want to get involved in the community somehow, whether it's just volunteering somewhere locally here or getting involved with a full year of service. We have the resources here to help with that. So please be in touch. But thank you all. Thank you again to our panelists, and thanks to everybody who joined us for this session today. I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening and week. Take care.